Igedi Amri, Sha'amra Ma'od Ma'od Hevi Blomida. This is the Babylonians that would demand money without any, demand money from the other countries that they were conquering without any measure. Urevuya Tirahu Sfasli, another pasuk in Daniel. Amid Amar Rabbi Yerim Lamed, Sherochav Alari Zachar. Nebuchadnezzar would ride a male lion, Bekashar Tanin Barosho. He tied a snake to its head. When Hashem was predicting who he was going to send to conquer, to destroy the Beis Hamikdash, he talked about somebody that was going to rule also over the beasts of the. 1 second. Lo yiskor adam po'alim b'Shabbos. You're not allowed to rent workers to do work for you for Shabbos. That falls under the same category of mimtzochav tzechah. That means you can't do business. Even to rent them to do work for you after Shabbos. We're not talking about doing work for you on Shabbos. We're talking about you can't arrange with workers to come and work for you after Shabbos. Lo yomer adam lechaver liskor lo po'al. He can't tell his friend to hire workers for him. Now, the Gemara is going to say, well, of course we can. We know there's a din. Whatever you can't do, you can't tell your friend to do. And if you did it, you would be over lifnei iver. Before a blind person, don't put a stumbling block. So the Gemara will have to explain what we're talking about. Then the Mishnah says, "Ein machshikin al atchum liskor lo po'alim l'havi peiros." You cannot go more than 2,000 ames outside of your city. Now, let's say, can you walk on Shabbos to the end of the tchum, wait so that you would be there when Shabbos is over, so you can be close to the place where the workers are, or to your field to bring fruit. So anything that you're not allowed to do on Shabbos, so you're not allowed to hire workers on Shabbos, you're not allowed to go get fruit on Shabbos. You cannot go to the tchum either on Shabbos. But let's say you have fields 2,000 amas from the city, and you want to watch. You heard there's going to be a protest, or there's going to be some kind of rally near your fields, and you want to go watch them right after Shabbos. So you're allowed to go to the tchum even on Shabbos, so that you're closer to your fields when Shabbos is over. Because you're allowed to do that on Shabbos as well. You can go look to watch your fields. You can go to stand there. Umevi peros biyado. And since your whole intent was to go there and watch, not to bring peros, if you happen to be there, you can bring peros with you. Anything that I can tell my friend to do, or to a goy, I can do myself by being at the tchum. Well, that seems to be a repetition of what we said before. Okay, so first of all, the Gemara deals with this issue that I can't tell my chavero. Pshita, maishno chavero. I mean, if you can't do it, you can't tell your friend to do it. Amra Papa, chaver nach, we talk about your Gentile neighbor, your friend, who's a Gentile. Afraid to Gemara, Mazki Ravashi, Amir Nachri Shvuz. What do you mean? It's a rabbinic prohibition to tell a Gentile to do anything that you're not allowed to do. You can't tell a Gentile to do. So how could this be an answer? Chaver Nachri. Alam Ravashi, Afilu Teva Chaver Yisrael. No, we're talking about the Jew. I know that. I can't. If I can't do it, I can't tell my friend the Jew to do it. Hakamash Malan to teach me. Lo yomer adon lechaver schor li poalim. You can't directly tell your Jewish friend, rent workers for me. Aval omer adon lechavero hanira shetamod imi lo erev. You can hint with him. You can say, tonight at the end of Shabbos, maybe you'll come with me. They both know that they're talking about renting workers. He's just giving him a heads up that he's going so he could come with them. Rashi says, Kiva de lo mefarsh bahadei shori. You're not telling him directly what you're doing, you're hinting at him. That's permitted. Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha Omer Adam Chaver Nira Shetamad Imila Erev. You can hint. Rabbi Yechon, Allah Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha. The halacha is like that. Rabbi Yechon, my time Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha perceive. Mimtzo Cheftzachot v'daber daver. Dibur also, you can't tell him directly. But here, or mutter, the fact that you guys are thinking about it, that's permitted. Because it only says dibur is also, not here. Rami le Ravacha Baravuna le Rava. Mi Omar Rabbi Yochanan dibur also here mutter. Did Rabbi Yochanan say that here hor is permitted? Alma. Here lav kedibur dami. That seems to suggest that thinking about something is different than talking about it. That means they're different. Here hor and dibur are different. But the Gemara says, I'll show you that Rabbi Yochanan holds they're not different. You can't think about Torah in a bathhouse or in a bathroom. So here is like dibur. Shani hasam devainan vayamachanecha kadosh. V'lo yireh b'cha ervas davar. So it's a special pasuk. But otherwise he would hold that here is different than dibur. Achanami ksiv lo yireh b'cha ervas davar. Over here also davar means speech, not hear. So Ahuva Barlech Rav Yehuda Dam Rav Yehuda Nachri Arum also likros kriyashma kenegdo. If you're standing in front of a Gentile who's not wearing any clothing, you can't read kriyashma in front of him. So my area Nachri Fili Yisrael Nami. I mean, why even if a Jew is unclothed in front of you, you can't read Quran. Why are you picking on the Gentile? The Gemara says it's a loma boy koma. It's in a structure of not only this, but this also. Loma boy Yisrael de Aser. Certainly, there is a concept of erva by Yisrael. And it would be prohibited. Aval Nachri. I might have thought maybe he doesn't have the same concept. Kiva d'chsiv be'asher psar chamorim psaram. One of the psukim talks about the flesh of a Gentile being like a chamor. And therefore there's a naked animal doesn't have a din of erva like we have our din by erva. So I might think that a nochri's nakedness is not considered erva. And maybe you could read kriyashma. Kamash Malamed, no. So of course it's Emal Chanami, who says maybe there is no concept of erva by a Gentile. Amar Krav, the ervas avihem lo ra'u. It says it says that Noah's sons went in to cover his nakedness. And it used the word ervas aviyah, their father's erva. Ben Noach was not a Jew. He's a Ben Noach. He's the definitive Gentile, yet it's called erva. So there is a din of erva by Gentiles. Afraid the Gemara, you said that dibur, you can't use speech which is related to business. Afraid the Gemara, dibur mi asir? Is it asir? I'll show you it's not asir. Let's say you're raising funds for the shul. You're allowed to do an appeal on Shabbos because you're doing calculations for a mitzvah. You can make an appeal for aniyim on Shabbos. You can go and collect money for public use, even on Shabbos. Let's say you have to ransom somebody from pirates. You can go to the shuls and make announcements and discussions about public need that lead to sakana, that would avoid sakana. Basiliki, and to theaters and to circuses. Where large people have gathered, and you can go and make speeches to them about something that affects the public. How can you tell me dibur is prohibited? All these actions involve dibur. You can talk about shiduchim of your children on Shabbos, or on the issues of having your child go to school, or even to learn a profession. Chefzecha means your own private issues, business is asur. Chefze shemai mutar, but things that are for the sake of heaven, you're allowed to use speech for. If you're doing some kind of calculation, he has no personal negia in it. It's not his. Like you have, how much did that house sell for down the block? It has nothing to do with him. He wants to know in general facts. That's permitted. Mutar l'chashvein b'Shabbos. Rashi says, she'ena shelo, ve'ein tzarech b'kach, doesn't belong to him. He doesn't really have any need for it. Past history, 20 years ago, this thing was worth such and such, or future. But they pertain to you. But things have nothing to do with you, or it had something to do with you, but it all passed. Like, I spent so much in the past on this house. That's mutar l'choshvan. Reminu, I'll ask you, you can calculate calculations that really you don't have any personal need for. But any kind of calculation that you need to know, you can't do. Ketzad? I spend so much on workers to to take care of this field. I spent so much money to buy that house. These are all things in the past that nothing to do with that you're allowed to talk about. I spent so much in the past, but in the future I'm going to also spend. So that seems to be a stira to what we said before. It's internally contradictory. So how do we resolve this? If he has workers that he hasn't paid yet, and they are still waiting to be paid, so he can't talk about things that happened in the past, how much he paid his workers before, because this cheshbon is still relevant to him. However, but if he has no workers that he has to pay, all of this is just past history, so then he's allowed to talk about that. Then the Mishnah said, you can't go to the Tchum to prepare Motzei Shabbos to be close to, to rent workers. There was a certain righteous person that on Shabbos, one of his fences fell down. And he had in his mind to fix it. However, he remembered that it was Shabbos. And he quickly realized it's Shabbos. I can't fix it, or go get workers for it. Nasolones, and a miracle happened. Va'aslo botzlap, the caper bush just grew overnight and filled up the break in the gate. And so many capers blossomed from that tree that he was also able to make parnasa from this caper bush. Rashi says the caper bush, there are 3 different foods that you can sell. The evyonot, the kafrisim, the leaves, the branches, and the fruit. Person could tell a person, I'm going to a certain village tomorrow. He can talk about that on Shabbos, as long as he would be able to walk there on Shabbos, and because there would be various houses for him to stop, and so therefore he would not be going beyond the Tchum. Shemyesh Burganin, those are little houses, hoyle. He'd be able to go anyways on Shabbos. So anything you can do on Shabbos, you can talk about. However, it's not. You cannot go to the end of the Tchum on Shabbos to be closer to the place to rent workers. So Bishmal Iskor Poalim, I understand why you can't go for renting workers to Shabbos Lo Matziyogar, because you can't hire workers on Shabbos. El Lavi Peiros. What's wrong with him going to the end of the Tchum if it's in mind to bring Peiros? Lema, maybe, listen, let's say there are walls all the way from the city to the fields, he'd be able to go anyways on Shabbos. Anything you can do on Shabbos, you can do Motzei Shabbos. So why is there be a problem with maybe Peiros? We must be talking about fruit that's still connected to the ground. Since I can't harvest fruit on Shabbos, that's why I can't talk about I can't go to be to be choshech al tchum for peres mechuborim. V'hatani Rabbi Shai ein machshik al tchum lavi tevin v'kash. It says you may not go to bring straw. Well, tevin and kash. Bishma kash, kash is still connected to the ground. Mishkach is labim mechuber. Ela tevin is always cut and dried. So there, if you had walls going all the way out to that area, you could go even on Shabbos. More answers, betivnei sari. We're talking about the straw got rotten. It's rotten, it's muktzah. That's why it would be usher to do it even on Shabbos. Toshma, you can go to the end of the tchum because a kala needs something, or you have to do a burial. Now, aliske kala v'meis in, aliske acher lo. That means for other businesses you can't. So bishma acher dumi the kala mishkachas lo. I understand for other people besides a kala. They used to give her a crown of myrtle branches. Now you can't do that on Shabbos. So that's what we're talking about, making some kind of crown for somebody else. Lemizgele also would be prohibited. Elamai mace, what are we talking about? Mace, lahavilo, oram etachrichin. We're talking about bringing a coffin or shrouds. Ukitani mace in a malachir lo. We're talking about, but not for a different person. Maybe. But if he had walls all the way to wherever he wanted to go, he'd be able to carry all these things. I understand the difference about making a myrtle crown. You couldn't cut the myrtles. But here, all you're talking about is schlepping. If you had walls, you could carry. So why wouldn't you be able to do it at Motzei Shabbos? Because we don't have a shroud. We have to cut the shroud. That you can't do on Shabbos. So it's also a prohibited work. Then it says of a machshikin, but you could, if all you want to do is watch your field, protect it, then you could go. So the Gemara says, and you could go afal gavdeloy avdil, even though you didn't make Havdalah. There's a halacha that you can't work until after Havdalah. You're not allowed to do work Motzei Shabbos until you did Havdalah. Fine. He didn't have a kos to make Havdalah la kos. But maybe he said Atachon Antanu in Shmona Esrei of Mariv. And but that doesn't solve this problem. Because Shmuel says even somebody who said Atachon Antanu and made Havdalah in Shmona Esrei has to be Mavdil ala kos. The Chitema, maybe you'll tell me, the Avdil ala kos. Yeah, he made Havdalah. Kos Besonim Mi'ika, he's out in the field. What kind of kos is there out in the field? This was a vineyard, and there was plenty of barrels of wine out there. So he could make Havdalah on a kos. That was one pshat. In Eretz Yisrael, we learn differently. He didn't have to make Havdalah on a kos. All he had to say is, if you're on the way home after Ma'ariv, let's say when we daven at Young Israel Hancock Park, and now you have to press the electric button to make the red light turn to green, and you haven't made Havdalah Lakos, so all you say is Amad ben Kodesh L'chol, and then you can do it. Then later on you make the that's our halacha. And that's the Gemara. It says if mehivdil betfila mutar af lifnei Havdalah kos. You're allowed to do work after you've made. So l'chora, the Shulchan Aruch says the atachanantana works as if you made Havdalah kos. And you can also say, let's say, even if you didn't daven, you can say amavdil ben kosher chol without a bracha, without a kos, and do malach as well. And he would chop wood. Klal Amar Abba Shul. Now, when Abba Shul said his klal, Iboilu, Abba Shul ayo, Ilem, Aresha Koi, is he going on the Resha where he said, Ein Machshikin al Tchum Niskor Palam Lavi Peiros, that you're not allowed to go to the Tchum to rent workers? Hi, but that's already filled by Kol Shani Zakai B'Maras Roshani B'Chashichoso. Anything I can do myself, I can go to be machshich for. Okay, this we'll learn tomorrow. So tomorrow, 8 o'clock.